Okay, third time's a charm. Oh my goodness. Okay, guys, thank you for your patience. You know what? In some ways, I'm super techie, and then in other ways, I'm freaking clueless. So here I am. Here we go. Okay. I'm just going to put in a comment here. Let me know if you are with me. Let me know who's here. Thank you for your patience again. Okay, so I wanted to come on here tonight and talk a little bit about the void and the dark night of the soul. I've gotten a few questions about the dark night of the soul lately, and people asking if I'd been through that, how long it lasted, what happened, and also just about, oh, it's 4:44 here. Haha, sorry I'm late, but better late than never. I also had people ask, if with a spiritual awakening, with a Kundalini awakening, if it's just kind of like, okay, you're awake now and that's it, or if you keep having multiple awakenings. So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And thank you so much in advance for supporting my channel. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for being here with me. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with the dark night of the soul, essentially it's this existential crisis that happens after an awakening, when your whole conceptual construct of reality breaks down. And so it's characterized by this feeling of hopelessness and almost feeling like life is meaningless. It's like nothing makes sense anymore. It almost feels almost like you've died. Especially when if you go through like a massive spiritual awakening and go into the dark night of the soul, it can feel like a death. And essentially, it is the death of what you thought your reality was. It's the breaking down of, the whole construct of your reality. And it can be scary as shit when you're in it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I have gone through a dark night of the soul. And it was super scary. So it was shortly after my spiritual awakening, my Kundalini awakening. Like I said before, for those of you who don't know my whole story, I went through a Kundalini awakening in 2015. Yep. And I had no guidance. It happened spontaneously, and it scared the crap out of me. And this is a big reason why I wanted to start this YouTube channel, was to talk about these experiences and potentially help someone who's going through similar experiences and doesn't really know what's going on, because I had no freaking idea what happened. And when I went into the dark night of the soul, it actually felt like I might die. I had physical pains. I didn't know who I was anymore. I had zero sense of identity, and pretty much no part of the life that I had created up to that point made any sense anymore. I didn't understand why I was doing the things that I was doing. I didn't understand why I was the way I was. And this thing happened where I started being able to observe my thoughts, observe the process of my thoughts, and kind of step out of the constant train of thought, the constant flow of thinking, and realized that a lot of the things that I was thinking on a daily basis were not good. A lot of my thoughts were quite destructive, actually. And so I got really depressed. I got really depressed in that stage because nothing made sense anymore. And I've watched other people's accounts of this, and it seems pretty similar across the board. That you just lose. It feels like the foundation crumbles underneath you, and everything that used to make sense doesn't make sense, and you kind of just feel like you're floating through space and not really sure what to do. So it's a really crazy experience, and we can go through many dark nights of the soul on our journey. And it doesn't seem to be like, it doesn't have to be a giant awakening that triggers it. It could be something seemingly insignificant that triggers a dark night of the soul. It just kind of depends. It depends. It's subjective. Everybody's journey is different, but we can go through many dark nights of the soul and many awakenings on our process. So just speaking from my own experience here, so in my experience, my Kundalini awakening was like the Big Bang. I equate it to the Big Bang in my life. It was just like shocked me to the core, like just broke down everything I thought I knew about my life and ripped me wide open. And honestly, my life has not been the same since. I'm not the same person. I'm not even the same person I was a year ago. So I had this massive spiritual awakening. And then in the almost 5 years since then, the analogy I use is like an aftershock. You know, you have the big earthquake and then you have the aftershocks. And every little aftershock after that, some of them have felt big. Not as big as that initial, but every consecutive aftershock has been another awakening. And these awakenings essentially are just peeling back more layers of who it is I thought I was. And whenever we go through that process, whenever we peel back another layer, per se, we enter into what I describe as the void. So we peel back this layer of beliefs, per se, and you enter the void. And this is a really interesting time because you're kind of in the in-between. It's almost like you're in limbo, because you know that the way you were behaving and the things you were believing before aren't serving you, and you've released these things, but now you're figuring out what to replace that with, and so you're in the void. And in the beginning of my spiritual journey, this void was so scary. It was so scary because I didn't realize that I had the option to fill this void with something more productive and better suited for my highest good. All I knew was the stuff that used to make sense doesn't make sense anymore. And now I'm in this void that feels like death. So it can be scary, and I wanted to make this video just to kind of have a discussion about it. If you're here, chat in and let me know what you think. Or if you're watching this after, get in the comments and let me know your experience with this. I'd be so curious to know. But I wanted to make this video too because though the void and the dark night of the soul can be really scary, there is a purpose for these phases in our spiritual development. And though they're madly uncomfortable a lot of the time, they are for our highest good. And as you progress, the dark nights of the soul, they won't be as crazy, as low, as depressive. I received my Kundalini the night of the solar eclipse. This year? Like this, the solar eclipse that just happened? I'd like to know more about your experience and what happened, my friend. Wow. But yeah, let me know. Oh, gaming 2017. Cool. I love hearing about other people's experiences going through this. So when you got your Kundalini awakening, what did you go through a dark period where things didn't make sense? Did you go through what they call a dark night of the soul? I'd be curious to know. It's such a crazy experience. The point I was going to make. Oh, that's so cool. I'm glad that these videos help. This is why I wanted to start my channel in the first place, was to talk about the spiritual journey, because man, if you don't know what's happening and you have a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, you can think you're losing your freaking mind. But yeah, okay, this is the point. Coming back around. The void. I've come to see in the last year or so, I've come to see the void as a place of pure potentiality, of pure creative potential. So rather than sitting in the void and just feeling kind of helpless, now I see it as an opportunity to really design my life. You know, we can really, it's just, the void is just, it's spirit clearing out space for higher vibration energy and for beliefs and for energy that will serve our highest good. And though it might be scary, there is a point for it. And like I said, we go through many awakenings in our journey. And I'm starting to see a pattern now that every time a layer gets peeled off, we enter into a void. And depending on, the voids might seem bigger or smaller, depending on the time. But every peeling back of a layer is followed by a void. And this is a really important time, because this is when you can really start to be conscious and be, words please, you can really decide what you want to create in your life. You are gifted this space of pure positive creative potential to really design your life and really call in what you want to experience. Excuse me, I just need to let my dog in. Come on, buds. There you go. Hi. Look, my little buddy. What was I saying? Okay, so yeah, you're given the opportunity to really start designing your life. So rather than looking at these voids as something negative, we can look at them as something positive and look at, this is spirit giving me space to really consciously create my life. And we can go through multiple dark nights of the soul in our journey. And I actually went through one just recently, and I guess that's why I wanted to make this video too. It's because I just went through a dark night of the soul. It wasn't as crazy as after my Kundalini awakening, but it was It was intense. And it was really fascinating too. If you're in a dark night of the soul, you can wonder how you're going to get out of it. And there are a few things that you can do. One of the best ways is to change your perspective, to sit and get present in that moment with what's happening and change your perspective. And rather than feeling, the woe is me feelings, I don't know what's going on, nothing makes sense, if you look to it with curiosity and look for, because usually with a dark night of the soul, it's our soul looking for, say, a decision or a different course of action. So, and this is why sometimes we have to go through a dark night of the soul, is because this is a shakeup. It's a shakeup to redirect us in life and redirect us back onto our path. In my opinion, this is just how I see it. It's to redirect us back onto our path and to show us, okay, interesting. So a dark night of the soul is when our shadow comes into consciousness, when our deep, deep shadow comes up to have the light of conscious awareness shone on it. And that's why it can be so uncomfortable, is because you are being faced with your stuff. Oh, Shadow Miner. I saw that your message disappeared for some reason. Okay. But generally, when we're going through this kind of experience, it's our soul asking for us to change course and to start making different types of decisions in our life that will serve our highest good. And for myself, just going through a dark night recently, I can see that now because I had this programming in my brain that I was okay with certain types of behavior in myself in relationship with others. And it was this pattern of auto-accommodating. So if you're not familiar with auto-accommodating, it's this hypervigilance almost, this hypervigilance of just like constantly being aware of everything that's going on around you with everyone else. And just, it's almost like a compulsion to just accommodate everyone and anticipate what their needs might be and just make everything okay for everybody else. And this was so unconscious for me that it was crazy. My soul, actually, I manifested an event in my life to show me this pattern so blatantly, obviously, that it was actually painful. But this is the purpose of some of these experiences, these darker experiences, the dark night of the soul, is to show you what's up, show you what's going on in your subconscious so that you can start making different decisions. Did you have a practice before Kundalini? So I didn't have a consistent practice. I had been practicing yoga and meditation for probably 4 or 5 years, but nothing really consistent. It'd be like a few times a week kind of thing. I didn't have a daily practice, and I didn't even know what Kundalini was. I didn't even know what that was. I had kind of a little bit of knowledge about the chakra system, a little bit of knowledge about energy work, but it was very minute. So when that awakening happened, I had no idea what was going on. All I was conscious of was that my life as I knew it was falling apart. Kind of crazy. So, yeah, and that was something else that someone brought up, was asking if, okay, so you have this Kundalini awakening, and then is that it? Like, now you're awake and you're enlightened and yada yada, and not so much. I'm awake, but I'm still human. Like, we're still human. We just have a different level of consciousness. It's just all it is. But there's still, if you've transcended all of your humanness, you're just going to disappear, because your work here will be done, So the Kundalini, it is such a process. It's such a process. So this massive awakening definitely shook me. And I've just been going through many smaller awakenings since then. And every single one, it's just, there's lots of talk about this analogy of peeling layers off an onion. You just keep peeling layers off and layers off and layers off. And every time you do, you can see a bit clearer. Your vision gets clearer. Your focus gets more refined, and your perspective gets broader. So I hope that kind of answers that question. It is a process. It's a really fascinating process. And if we can look at this process with a sense of curiosity, we have so many opportunities to go inward and to really get to know ourselves and our psyche more. And the more we do this inner work, the more we understand our world, and the more we understand the other people in the world, and the more we understand how things work, how people ended up the way that they ended up. And to me, it's fascinating. It's so fascinating to have access to so many layers of development and psychology and consciousness, and we all have access to this. And you may not need to go through such a violent, maybe violence is the wrong word, but such an earth-shattering awakening to reach different levels of consciousness. But as humans, a lot of the time, we need to be hit by a frickin' 2x4 or a Mack truck to wake up and to change things in our lives and to look at things differently. Shadow Miner 28 says, life is so rich now, right? It's so rich. I was thinking about that the other day, that life has so much more depth and texture to it now. And at the same time, I feel this sense of detachment. It's weird. It's this weird oxymoron, this weird dichotomy. It's like I have this sense of detachment, emotional detachment from outcomes most of the time, still human. And at the same time, I feel so much more immersed in life, so much more immersed in it. Everything, like, life has this visceral quality, and And time seems to slow down when you're more present in it. Life is rich. That's a good way to describe it. Know thyself says, I had mine back in 2015. I had an out-of-body experience and I ended up in space with a being communicating with me, telling me there is a spiritual evolution going on. And we're to self-empower. We're to self-empower? Yeah, we are to self-empower. I actually just made a, yeah, wow is right. Sorry, my mind just trailed off on that that last bit about we're to self-empower. We are, because if you think about living life unconsciously, a lot of the time that life is disempowered because you're living from your programming so much rather than from your conscious awareness. We're living from our programs so much that we kind of are just going through life on autopilot, doing the things that you think that you should do and reacting to the outside world as if it's separate from you. And yeah, you're just feeling disempowered because then your outside reality affects your internal environment, and you think that things are happening to you when really they're happening for you. I had a really great conversation with my friend Morgan about this yesterday, that everything in life is happening for you, for your evolution, for your development, for your growth, for your spiritual growth. And when we can change our perspective to really see our lives from that vantage point, that everything is happening for us, it changes everything, because then you can walk through life with a sense of curiosity and almost that's kind of a funny analogy that just popped into my head. It's almost like a scavenger hunt. You're kind of first started in a descent, then popped up. Interesting. An early did you mean Christian Kundalini? What, can you elaborate on that, please? That would be awesome. But yeah, it's like a scavenger hunt. You're on the lookout for blocks, for what's kind of in your way, for ways that you can change your perspective and see things differently. And yeah, life becomes an adventure. Did you guys have any questions about anything, about this, about the dark night, about the void? Christian, okay. I'm still not sure what you mean by an early Christian Kundalini. I'd be curious to know what that is. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what that is. This is fun. Thank you for your questions. But yeah, self-empowering. This whole journey is about self-empowerment and really taking responsibility for your life and really just remembering who you are, remembering what your soul is all about, remembering that you are limitless, that you are limitless. You are a multidimensional being having a human experience right now. And actually, I heard Jeffrey Allen say something about that the other day. He's very much into energy work, and he said that we have this perception that our soul resides within our body, but it's actually the other way around. Our body resides within our soul. Because when you're meditating and you get into the zone, you can feel your energy is so much bigger than your body, and you can stretch it out. You can expand your energy. You can expand so far that you actually lose the boundaries of it, and you tap into that connectedness. It feels like you tap into all that is. And when you expand your consciousness that far, it really makes you start to question everything about your life, everything about who you think you are and what you think you know. And in that space too, I'm going off on a tangent. And in that space too, which could also be called the void, in that space, you cease needing to quantify things. You move your consciousness beyond your 3D brain, but beyond your mind. That might be kind of a deep concept right now, but you move your consciousness beyond your mind, beyond your thoughts. And you stop needing to quantify things. You stop needing to label your experiences so much. You stop needing things to turn out certain ways. You stop being attached to outcomes. You become free. And for some reason, we decided to come down to this planet at this time and experience the confinements of cultural, familial, personal programming and reclaim our freedom. Okay, I gotta catch up on comments here because I went on a tangent. Yes, Christian, I became born again. I gave birth, received a new name, popped the pituitary gland, and that is referred to as the king's daughter. Oh, I didn't know that. DMT releases. Interesting. I didn't know that the pituitary gland was referred to as the king's daughter. I'm going to look into that. Crazy. Can I ask what you were doing when your awakening happened? Seven-year process. Okay. You were doing your rosary when you had your awakening. Crazy. That's really cool. Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so interesting to hear different people's stories of what happened, what was going on in their lives when they had their spiritual awakening, and what happened in your life after that. I love hearing people's stories. It's fascinating, you know? Because I personally, I didn't grow up with religion. I stopped going to church when I was about 9 because I didn't want to go, and I didn't go. So I didn't really have a religious upbringing. I didn't really have a whole lot of spiritual knowledge growing up. My whole thing was I just spent a ton of time in nature because in the forest, everything made sense. You know, that the forest, I guess you could call my church growing up because, you know, nature made a whole lot more sense to me than people did. So I spent a lot of time alone in the forest. Yeah, my life was broken. You know, my life was broken too before my awakening, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it. I didn't realize how many masks I was wearing. I didn't realize how much I was people pleasing and convincing myself that that was really what I wanted to be doing with my time and with my life. I was just lost. I was so lost. And now I'm found. Yeah, that's all you need is the trees. But it makes me wonder if that's why this awakening happened, was because I was so far off course, so far off the path that I was supposed to be on. You know? It's like my friend Natasha is a psychic, and she puts it, how does it go? Hang on, I gotta get this right. She says, first you'll get a whisper, then you'll get a slap. Then if you're still not listening, then you're gonna get a 2x4 upside the head. And so it's like that, you know. Spirit's always talking to us. Spirit's always trying to guide us. We have so much support in the spiritual realm, but if we're not listening, if we're not... Sorry, someone's car alarm is going off. But if we're not listening to our intuition, and if we're just, you know, keep ignoring our intuition and ignoring it, eventually something's going to happen to frickin' wake us up, you know? Oh, hi, August. Oh, I'm glad to see you. Thanks for being here, my friend. I love the leaves on the trees. Yes. I also love the leaves on the trees. Oh, what a cool memory. Did you see me just go there? One of my favorite things where I used to live was to go and float in the lake on the water and watch all the leaves on the trees above me just rustling in the wind. Spending time in nature is so important. It's so vital to keep our energy high and clear. And especially if you live in a city, it's so important to find time to be in nature and to just, what's the word? To recalibrate our energy, recalibrate our chakras, and recalibrate our heartbeat back to be in sync with the earth and with the universe, because that is what it's all about. My husband almost died and had a stroke, and no family, no money, with 2 small kids. Whoa. That sounds like a really heavy time. No doubt. Since my OBE, narcissistic abuse and codependency really hits home. Oh, since your out-of-body experience. Since your out-of-body experience, that stuff really hits home? Do you mean you're more sensitive to those kinds of dynamics? Know thyself? Be curious to know what you mean. Yeah, out-of-body experiences are intense. Hmm. Thank you for sharing your experiences, you guys. This is really interesting. Really interesting. It's the kind of paradigm we live in. Yeah. It's it's kind of a trip to see all the programming in our cultures and in our societies, and the hive mind, the hive mind of everything, and just to see, well, it's like the Matrix, honestly. It is like the Matrix movie. I love that movie. But it is like the hive mind, and this is I could go on another tangent about this, but I'm really passionate about this topic. We, just speaking of the hive mind and everything, we're not taught in school how to be in relationships of any kind. We're not taught how to manage our emotions. We're not taught how to be in relationships with others. We're not taught how to handle conflict. We're not taught really how to communicate our feelings and our emotions. All we're really taught about relationships is what we see on TV. And that stuff's messed up. Have you ever seen a sitcom or a show where the people actually have a really healthy relationship? I haven't. It's messed up. And that's our education. And that's super scary. And so there again, my friend Natasha wants to get into the schools and start talking to children about spirituality and about their emotions and how to really express themselves, how to deal with others, how to deal with conflict. It's so important. We go to school and we learn all these subjects that we never use again, but we're not really taught a whole lot of life skills. Excuse me, I mean, like home ec and stuff, whatever, but yes, nonviolent communication. We wonder why. Okay, I'm just going, but we wonder why there's so many school shootings and stuff now. It's scary, and it makes me sad, and this is why, like, I just want to get these messages out there and talking talking about this stuff, because I've had kids contact me too, saying, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling my chakras, and I'm going through this spiritual awakening. People are waking up sooner and sooner, and I have so much hope. I have so much hope for the world. Even though sometimes it seems like it's just going crazy, we are awakening on a grand scale at a really fast pace, and people are waking up younger and younger. And I think this needs to be part of our school system. That's why the Montessori schools are so awesome. Kids need to know how to be people. Kids need to know how to, keep their sense of wonder and imagination, and have avenues of nonviolent communication, and learn how to disagree, and learn how to have debates without it getting crazy, and learn how to not take things personally, and learn how to be balanced, and learn how to manage their energy and their sensitivities. There's so many empathic people who don't know what a gift they have, I was told we've accumulated psychological energetic weight that's not actually ours. Yeah, the Waldorf schools are cool too. Psychological energetic weight that's not actually ours. That feels heavy. But But at the same time, there is a lot of energetic weight out there, because whether we're conscious of it or not, we're all tapped into the collective consciousness. We're all tapped into the collective mind. And that's why it's so important to do our part. And doing our part even can be a daily practice where you are sending love, you're sending all that high vibration energy out into the world. Because, you might not think that sitting in your house praying and sending out that good vibes and the good intentions is doing anything, but it is. Because we're all connected, we are all part of the collective consciousness, we are all affecting this collective consciousness on a daily basis, minute to minute, hour by hour. So if we can really start to mold the young, don't mold them, but empower the young ones, empower our young ones, because they are the ones who are taking over the world from birth onward. Yeah. August, there's something very strange going on. There is something very strange going on. Being a human and being alive is a very strange experience. Does your spine feel magnetic? That's a good question. Now or all the time? Oh, it does feel magnetic. And I had a really interesting experience on the plane. Electric. Yes, it does feel electric. I had an interesting experience on a plane ride recently where, with just going off of this electromagnetic spine feeling, I was meditating on the plane, and with the intention that I wanted to see what was blocking me from having a particular experience. And I just had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden felt this energy go like through my head, down my spine, and it felt like my whole spine was just vibrating. Like I could almost hear static. It was crazy. And so a lot of the time my spine does feel electric. That's a good way to put it. I've noticed this sensation, but I haven't really given it a ton of contemplation, a ton of thought. It's interesting though. Excuse me. And I'm finding that I recently stopped eating meat a few months ago, and since then I'm finding that I'm having a lot more physical experiences of energy. Whereas before I could sense it. I could sense energy all the time, but now I'm getting a lot more physical sensations. Hi, Kim. Oh, it's nice to see you. Cool. We got a little bit of a party going on. But yeah, as I've cleaned up my diet, and I'm finding, I'm getting a lot more physical sensations of energy, which is really, really fascinating. I was going to add something to that, but now I forget. It might come back. How are you doing, Kim? We've been talking about spiritual awakenings and dark nights of the soul, and the void that we experience as we peel layers off of our programming. I do 1 meal a day. Okay. I've actually been thinking about, I kind of do that. I'm not on a regime with that, with 1 meal a day quite yet, but I have been eating a lot less. I've been finding I'm just not as hungry. It's kind of interesting. I've been drinking tons of water though, tons of water. Thank you, August. Thank you all for being here and for being a part of my channel. This is great, and I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for this community. I love these conversations. I love talking about spirituality and what's going on in the mind and psychology, all this kind of stuff. I started intermittent fasting. Yeah, I've been intermittent fasting too, and finding that actually has really helped my digestion. And I don't know about you guys, but a lot of you were on my last live about being an empath. And let me know your experience, but I've been finding that as I'm cleaning up my vessel, if you will, I'm noticing really that when I'm allowing myself to be super tapped into someone else and even my own emotions, like I feel like I'm physically digesting emotion. Do any of you experience that? Like when and even just now, coming out of a recent short dark night of the soul, I didn't want to eat anything because it felt like my guts were so full, like just so full of energy that was getting processed. All my body wanted was water and like ginger tea, and that's it. And herbs and fruit. But like, that's it. I was just, for a couple of days, just eating like an orange a day because that's all I could handle. I'm fine now because I've processed it, but it's an interesting sensation to actually be digesting these energies. And I'm finding too, because I do work with a healer quite consistently, and anytime I have a session with her, the same thing. I'm like digesting the energies, digesting the gunk, and I just have no appetite for sometimes a couple of days while I'm processing. Licorice tea. I got a tea actually that has licorice in it. Licorice and chamomile and nettles and some other good stuff. Someone also told me about stomach chi. It's like a Chinese herbal supplement to help the digestive system. I haven't tried it yet, but I think I might try it out. So, yeah. Interesting times. August, you're right. There is something strange going on here, but I'm grateful to be alive at this time because we're able to find each other so easily now. We have the internet. We can connect with people all over the world. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Apple cider vinegar. Okay. To help with digestion? Speaking of water. Oh, so good. Did you guys have any... Oh, Dr. Sebi. I've heard of Dr. Sebi, and I've watched a couple of his videos on Instagram, but I don't know a ton of his work. I make a lot of his herb stuff. Cool. Do you have, Kim, are you able to share a web link? Like, are there recipes out there? Like maybe a web resource that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? That'd be really interesting, actually, because, yeah, that man was unreal. Just hearing him talk about mucus and everything, it's kind of crazy. It makes you really think. It's so important what we put in our bodies, you guys. My goodness. I searched for like 10 months for recipes. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's funny how, that would be awesome if you're able to, Kim. That'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting that, you go to the doctor for something, and the first thing, a lot of the time, that they'll do is prescribe you a pill. And oh man, it's just like, okay, shortly after my Kundalini Awakening, I was having panic attacks all the time, like a couple times a week. It was crazy. And I went to the doctor just to get a note so I could get off of work and recover, because I knew I needed to do some work on myself. I hadn't let myself process any of the emotions from all the life stuff. And the first thing he did was prescribe me Ativan. And I went home and I read all of the side effects and that they were like super addictive. I was like, I'm not taking this shit. So that was when I really started just getting hardcore into meditation and my yoga practice. I was determined to find a way to feel better. Determined. And I was not going to be taking any pills for that. But you'd think about it, how many people just go with what their doctors say, and oh, well, I was told to take this, so I'm going to take this. Oh, and now I have this symptom, and now I need this pill. And you know, I gotta control myself because I'm gonna like get kind of crazy here. But yeah, it's so much of our health has to do with our diet and with our emotional state and with our energy and what's going on in our soul. It's just like a holistic view of everything. Our soul is connected to our emotions, is connected to our thoughts, is connected to our physicality. It's all connected. And if you have, oh my goodness, if you are not familiar with Louise Hay, she has a book called You Can Heal Your Life. When I read that, it blew my freaking mind, because she lays out all of these physical conditions and the emotional thing that's going on behind all of these physical conditions. It's amazing. So like suppressed anger can cause all of these different kinds of disorders. Suppressed sadness, suppressed grief lives in the lungs. It's so fascinating. This lady is in Jordan and also has a YouTube channel. Which lady? I want to know which lady. Anyways, I started off talking about the dark night of the soul, and now I'm talking about diet and stuff. Whatever, it's all part of it, right? So we're reaching an hour, guys. Do you have any other questions? Anything other? Okay. This is so fun. I love hanging out with you guys. Yeah, it's all good, Kim. It's all good. I love it too, because you guys, you always bring cool info, and I always learn from you, and I love it. So thank you for hanging out with me on your Saturday afternoon. Does this? Hi, Scott. I said it. How are you? Yeah, Scott Weiss is in the house. How did your family deal with you awakening? I wasn't around my family when it happened. There was actually quite a good span of time where I didn't see my family very much at all, because I had a big old chip on my shoulder about a lot of things. Oh, okay. You tried logging in as Leo. Okay. So Scott Weiss, you and Leo Volant are the same person? I kind of had that feeling. No, Leo's not blocked. No, I haven't really blocked. No, I haven't blocked anyone from my channel. I did delete a comment though because I don't want to get in arguments. But yeah, I wasn't near my family when I went through my awakening. I was kind of by myself. I had a few friends around me, and but I didn't know how to articulate what I was going through at the time. Because I kind of thought I was going nuts. I didn't know how to articulate what I was going through. I didn't know how to explain it to anyone. But people did notice that I changed. People did notice that I was different. But they couldn't really put their finger on it. And neither could I for the longest time. I just knew that I was seeing life in a completely different way. And I had this feeling that I was never going to be the way that I was. I know you probably think I'm full of crap, but I promise you I'm telling the truth. But in my OBE, being was telling me to self-empower, it showed me Louise Hay. Well, that's crazy. I don't think you're full of crap. I don't think that people are full of crap when they tell me their spiritual experiences, because I've seen some stuff too. And there's so much going on beyond what we can perceive with our senses. There's so much going on in the spiritual realm. YouTube did it before. What did YouTube do before? Lock Leo out of something? Okay. You left your email address on my business page, so let's get in touch and fix this thing. Okay. Yeah, definitely. If somebody's can't get onto this thing, let's figure it out. I keep getting told that I have to learn to love myself. Still working on that one. Who's telling you, August? Who's telling you that you have to love yourself? It is true that is a really important practice. I'm still working on that. Seriously. I'm getting there, but I'm still working on it. It's a constant thing. It's a constant process. Then I came across Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton. Yeah, I just recently came across Bruce Lipton too. I had never heard of him before, but he's got some really cool work. And Greg Braden, I just bought one of his books actually called The God Code. I came across it randomly in a used bookstore, and I'm really excited to read it, but I've got a couple books on my list to read before that one. Kim, I was articulating it like a madwoman, and my kids thought I needed seriously that I needed serious help. You were articulating your awakening? Yeah, I can imagine if you were articulating your awakening and all of your experiences, because yeah, when you're going through it, it's just like, oh my God, it seems like every half an hour you're having some new epiphany, and it's just like, holy shit, this just happened and this just happened, and now I see clearly, and now this is going on, and now this is going on, and it can be so euphoric at the same time that you just want to share. You want to you just want to express what's happening because it's so exciting and it's so earth shattering and it's so revolutionary. And it's tough because there often aren't sufficient adjectives, there aren't sufficient words in the English language to truly describe the depth of what you're feeling. And so I've had that happen to me so many times. I'm like trying to explain this spiritual experience that I just had, and I end up sounding like a crazy asshole because like I don't have the words. Like I just don't have the right words to really describe what's going on. And that's why, like, you look at all these spiritual teachers, Jesus in particular was always talking in metaphors and parables. It's because the only way to really try to describe the depth of what you're feeling is to wax poetic. And even then, it doesn't do it justice because it's so profound. Okay, I gotta catch up on stuff here. The work that is. One time it took a week before my comments finally popped. Okay, yeah, I've noticed that that some of the comments get marked as spam or potentially spam, and sometimes I forget to go in there and check. Like August, sometimes with all of your punctuation in the comments, it marks it as spam. Please don't stop doing that. By the way, I love the way that you do that. It's almost like you're sending a little drawing sometimes. But yeah, I'll be more diligent about getting into the comments there and approving them. Not loving yourself is a sign you might be looking out to the world. Yeah, that's a good point. Not loving yourself is a sign you might be looking out to the world. I think it's a good thing for us to have a balance and be able to look out into the world with wonder, but not look out into the world for validation of our worth. That's a bit of a slippery slope, that one, Yeah, self-love is an interesting journey for sure. Yeah, the awakening, Kim. It's so awesome. Yeah, me too. The universe is what we should love. Why worry about ourselves? We need to act in the moment, not love ourselves. Yeah, because when you're acting in the moment, when you're really acting in the moment and you're really present, you lose the barriers between yourself and everything else. For some reason, I just thought of come on, brain, of a candlelight meditation, when you sit and you stare at the flame of a candle. And if you do that long enough, have you guys tried that practice? Or you can do it with anything. If you sit there and focus on one thing long enough, you start to lose the boundaries of the thing, and you start to all of your conditioning about what that thing actually is falls away, and you start to just contemplate what's beyond the appearance of the thing, and you start to just see energy after a point. And I've actually been wanting to do this in the mirror. Like, have you guys ever done that and just sat in the mirror and looked in your own eyes? I did it for a few minutes and it was crazy. I'd like to know your experience if you've done that before. But eye gazing is such an interesting practice. And I only did it for a couple of minutes the one time. And it was such an interesting experience because, like, my eye color started to change, and I actually started seeing the shape of my face change and morph, and I started seeing, it was almost like a whole bunch of different faces came in and out of the picture, and then I just felt this sense of connection to everything, and at the same time realized or really felt and experienced that I am more than this body. It's fascinating. Yeah, I'm reading the live chat. Yeah, I've got all the comments on the side over here, so I want to make sure that I don't miss any of you. Yeah, that's a Kim, or know thyself. That's what I'm learning. Not to look for validation or being aware when I ask myself why. Yeah, for sure. Like what part of you needs the outside validation, and how can you give that validation to yourself? That's such a powerful practice. Because and this is a bit deep too, but everything in our external reality is a reflection of us anyhow. And it's a reflection of our beliefs about ourselves. So if we get into a situation where we feel invalidated, it's because we're not validating ourselves. So again, why it's important to do the internal work and just learn to meet your own needs rather than looking outside of yourself, and approaching self-love like it's an adventure rather than a chore. It's, if you can look at it like, cool, I'm gonna hang out with myself and be in relationship with myself. Treat it as if you're heading into a new friendship. And when you're starting to become friends with a new person, you ask them questions about themselves, like what they enjoy doing, what they enjoy reading, what they do in their spare time. And because a lot of us, especially sensitive people, you kind of there's a tendency to build your identity around what you think other people want you to be. And that's not just sensitive people. I think we all do this. And sometimes we get to be adults and we don't know who we are. Even at the base level, like, you have these ideas of what you enjoy and what you like, but are those really true? Or are those built on past conditioning and past experiences? Just sitting down and actually having these conversations with yourself, figuring out what you really want. What does your soul really want? What really makes you happy? What do you really want to do with your time? What kind of relationships do you want to have? What kind of experiences do you want to have? What kind of emotions do you want to feel? And just getting to know yourself. It seems like kind of an out there concept, but how much time do we actually spend getting to know our own selves? You guys. Mirror is the word I was given earlier today. Cool. We are all mirroring each other. It's so fascinating. Some guy online got his Kundalini Awakening that way. What, by looking at himself in the mirror? He was also tripping. Was he on acid or something? Oh, in dreams, you're supposed to go through mirrors. You go through the mirrors just 'cause to learn. Oh, what books are you reading? Okay. Thanks, August. What books am I reading? I usually have a few on the go. Do I have any here? So usually I'll have kind of a spiritual book and a novel and something more practical. Like I usually have 3 books on the go right now. I'm reading The Naked Now by Richard Rohr. He's actually a Christian or Catholic minister, but he's all talking about contemplative Christianity, mystical Christianity. It's really, really interesting and just totally different takes on Bible passages, which is really fascinating to me. Like I said, I didn't grow up with any kind of religion, so I've just been starting to study all these different points of view, and it's fascinating. So The Naked Now by Richard Rohr I'm reading right now. I'm also reading The Wealthy Barber. Who is that by? Who's the author? Shit, I can't remember. But one of my main focuses right now is getting my financial house in order, because that's been something that I've been avoiding pretty much my entire adult life. So I'm reading about how money works. It's kind of interesting. And what else? And then I'm also reading Women Who Run with the Wolves, which is really interesting. Lots of ancient stories about the archetype of the wild woman. And that book's taking me a really long time to get through because I just don't want to plow through it. You know, it's a lot of short stories, but there's so much symbolism and so much mythology in these stories that I kind of just read one and then I take a couple of weeks to let it sink in and really contemplate it. So it's taking me forever to get through, but it's really, really good. Those are the 3 books that I'm reading right now. Next on my list is Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. I'm really interested in that. What are some of your guys' favorite books? Bye, Shadow Miner. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to need to go pretty soon here too, and I've still got a bit of work to do this evening. Especially boys find it difficult to articulate anything. Yeah. Because boys aren't really taught, boys are taught that they have to be tough and they can't show emotion, and if they, they can't be sensitive because it's a weakness, and that's total bullshit in my opinion. I remember going off to college and the girls would interrogate me and slap me around until I would articulate something. Oh my God. That's awful. But yeah, in general, girls are more expressive with their emotions for sure. But I don't think any of us are really taught from a young age to constructively express ourselves. Like I remember myself as a teenager, I was just kind of overly sensitive and overly emotional for sure, but I didn't really know how to articulate what was going on, so I would just bottle things up until I freaking exploded one day, Oh, to go through a mirror in a dream is to go from an ordinary dream to a higher dream. Oh, okay, interesting. Heard of the archetype of the huntress. Same thing? That I don't know, but I will look into that. Yeah, exactly. One bit at a time with Women Who Run with the Wolves, for sure. My favorite book. Oh, August. That's one of my favorite books too. Illusions by Richard Bach. That's on my list to reread once I'm done these other books. I read it I read that book a long time ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, and it blew my mind. And I want to read it again and see. It's interesting to reread things because you always get a little bit more out of them, you know? No, it was great. The girls became my sister. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, Illusions is a really great book. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to hang out for a little bit longer. Do you guys have any other questions or any other topics you'd like to discuss before I sign off? I'm going to get in here. I know I said this last time, but for reals, do the Saturday afternoons work for you guys? Would you rather a different time, or does this work? I was thinking even maybe Saturday mornings might be good. We can have coffee. Well, I've still got coffee going. Collective consciousness. Where was I before I was born? This time works. Okay, cool. Collective consciousness. Actually, August described a really interesting experience where it sounded to me like he tapped into the collective consciousness and actually heard it with his ears, which was really interesting. I love this too. I really love hanging out with you guys. It's fun. You get me thinking about stuff in a different way, which I love. Collective consciousness, that's a big that's a big subject to tackle in a few minutes. What exactly about it, Scott? What exactly about the collective consciousness? The Maharishi effect just popped into my mind. We've talked about, yeah, Scott and August need to get together. But we are all connected. And actually, Scott, going off of your mirrors, I got this vision a while ago of the collective consciousness as this big giant chandelier almost. And each one of us is one of the little danglies, and each one of us is a mirror, and we're constantly like moving around, mirroring to each other all the time. And we're all connected to the I am. We're all connected to the one big energetic structure. I guess I can put it that way. But we're all a piece of the bigger puzzle, and we're all impacting each other, whether we're in physical proximity or not. We're all mirroring each other. We're all affecting each other, and bouncing our intentions around. You know, bouncing our intentions around, and just constantly learning. It's interesting, actually. There are some studies around language and how, you know, these weird colloquialisms will come up in a certain area, in a certain country, and then somehow pop up on the other side of the planet. It's really fascinating. Like we are all connected. Collective consciousness, that might be what we can do with the Kundalini to save the world. Yes. If we could organize the collective consciousness, we might be able to use it. How would we organize something so massive? How would we organize the collective consciousness? Here's a question. What if the awakened ones use their intention to positively influence the collective consciousness, and that's waking more people up. Would that be kind of a way of organizing it? Oh, now you got my wheels turning. Again, the Maharishi effect comes into my mind. You know, when you get a whole bunch of people together and you meditate and you set a collective intention like that, what did it say? You can affect a 5,000 kilometer radius just with a small group of even 10 people. That's why, like, group prayer can be so powerful. When you collect people's energies and you focus it, laser focus everyone's intention on something similar, maybe we should organize a big online meditation. That would be cool. I don't know, dude. I think if you're thinking about this kind of stuff, you're pretty awake. But I'm open to your ideas. Let me know. And you know what? I'll put my email address down in the comments here. And send me your ideas. Let's talk about this stuff because it's fascinating to me. I think we need to get all of the awakened on the same page. Yeah. Shit, that would be so powerful if we could get a huge group together. Wow. Oh, sorry, I missed a question. Do you feel since you've gone through this that you couldn't go back to the person you were before? Because I couldn't, even if I tried. Yeah, no, I could never go back to the person that I was. What's that song just popped in my head? Hell to the no. Hell no. No, I definitely couldn't go back to the person that I was. Oh my God. Thinking about that. No, and we can't go backward. You know, even when we go through these mini dark nights of the soul and we end up in the void and it can feel like we're going backwards, we're never actually going backwards. We can't. So when you're in the flow of the river, you don't end up going backwards. You might get hung up on the edge a few times, but you're still just going forward. You're never going backwards. And you can't. Wow. It's actually quite a trip thinking about that. Thinking about who I was even just a couple of years ago, you guys. My goodness. Whoa. No, I couldn't. I think you said it right. I couldn't even if I tried. Because, oh man, like I'd have to lower my vibration so much. It would be torturous. And that might sound dramatic, but yeah. Who we got here in prana awake, but not full blown awake. A small light in the darkness overcomes the darkness. And that is what you are. Namaste, my friend. Soulful Taz has a Kundalini website, and that is her thing, how to go back to before. Thank you, Scott. The only reason I would want to go back, and it's not to go back to live. Sometimes I do go back into the consciousness of who I was to learn, but then I come back. Does that make sense? Like, I would never want to go back to living the way I was. But sometimes, like what just happened with me recently, I went back into the consciousness of myself as a 12-year-old girl so that I could do a completion process and heal something that needed to be healed. That's the only reason that I would and that I do go back, is to do some healing work and do a completion process. And it's really interesting to go back into that consciousness and feel all those feelings and feel it so intensely in your body too. That's the only reason I would go back, is to do some healing. And then you bring that healing forward. It's an interesting process. I haven't seen Laura's website in quite a while, so I'll have to check that out and see what she's got going on there. Interesting. Very interesting. I probably shouldn't be drinking coffee this late. I might not sleep. But it's so delicious. Yeah, and thank you, Scott. I have grown. It's it's so interesting. I watched one of my older videos the other day, and I'm probably not going to do that again because it's so weird. But somebody at some point in their process might need to see that. So I'm not ever going to delete my videos, I don't think. I did get rid of a couple, but I haven't seen many of Laura's videos lately. I don't know what's going on over there. Yeah, I don't know. Send her some loves. Send her some loves. Okay. And that's, yeah, I'm starting to feel too, I'm so inspired to make more videos because, like was mentioned earlier, it's so important. It's so important to self-empower, to empower ourselves on this journey so you don't get taken off track so much, so that I just want to share all the tools that I've been learning. And I love this process. Like, I'm constantly reading and learning and trying new things, and I'm constantly uncomfortable because I'm trying new processes and new ways of eating and whatever. So it's fun. I just like to share what I'm learning and to learn from you guys. Soulful Taz brought me to Leo, and Leo brought me to you. That's so cool. I was wondering why I hadn't heard from Leo in a while, so I'm going to look into that. Because usually he's on top of it, like on the videos, commenting and here, and I hadn't seen him for a while, so I'll check that out. Cool. Okay, guys. I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to get some water. I still have a little bit of work to do this evening. But it was so cool to hang out with you. And yeah, you've got my email address there. If you've got some ideas for topics you want videos on, yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, let me know. I'm here, and I'll be here if this time works for you guys. I'll be here next Saturday afternoon too, and we can have some chats. It might be, I might do Saturday morning because I might be heading out later that day. So I'll schedule it. Yeah, I'll schedule it for next Saturday morning this time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. This was great. Cool. Thank you guys so much for your time and your energy and your support. I appreciate it, and I love you, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a really good night.